We're switching over anyway, so it doesn't matter, but I'll note that for future reference. I'll turn it down. Okay. I'm also going to be uploading this to YouTube, so I'm going to be ad-libbing a lot. Okay. Let's get this shit show started. First, I just want to point out the description of this video that she wrote. I want to thank my legal team, family, and no one else, because you people couldn't even scroll down on an Instagram page to fact check her. You really said no evidence? That's fine. It's not like she's accusing these people of felonies that could ruin their lives. Her own YouTube channel debunks all of her claims. She said she was so scared to post about her location online during a time when she was actively vlogging around her city, saying where she was living and more. But per usual, I will do all the heavy lifting because you guys are lazy. And then she talks about the Google Doc thing. And then she says, I will not be responding to comments. I will not be interacting with this video or this channel after this, lest it be talking about how certain people like Ashley, Lily, and Repzion went above and beyond to lie, dox, and slander me. P.S. Repzion saying in his video he wasn't really friends with me is silly, seeing as he cried on a Discord call with me because he had never had real YouTube friends and had never been as close to someone online. But sure, try to save your skin. Now, I watched that Repzion video, and he didn't say that he wasn't really friends with her. He just said that he was friends with her, but then their friendship ended, and he had shared a lot of emotions with her and a lot about his personal life with her. But whatever. Also, this is 2.5 hours long. This might have to be a 2-part stream, but this is 2.5 hours long. Jesus. With 18 parts. The relationship, 2012, heroin, online harassment, Emily Sugarfruit. Dell, you'll have to tell me if I'm too loud. Camming, disproving her own story, the Snapchats, Anthony's tweets, the rewired soul, my problem with a big art YouTuber, Amy, proof she exists. That's gonna be fun. Emily's question, 2014, history of false claims, random lies, Jen Campbell, Kevin Adam Coulter, final statements. And from what I can see from the comments, it seems like most people are telling her that in the video, apparently she just is trying to defame Emily's character. She's not actually trying to like prove her innocence as much as she is trying to make it seem like Emily's a shitty person and crazy. So, whew, I don't know about all that, but let's just get through this. Del, please let me know if
you are seeing this video, it means one of two things
you can hear the video.
Either one, my lawyers negotiated with Emily's lawyers and we reached a private settlement, which resulted in some form of retraction. Or two, I took Emily to court for defamation and came out the other side. This video is being made for posterity to show I didn't do what I was accused of, and to show that what Emily has accused me and my husband of not only never happened to her, but could not have happened. This video is being made to simply defend my and my husband's name and prove we did not do the things we were accused of. I am going to go through Emily's statements.
It's also been 6 months. It's been like 6 to 7 months since Emily Artful's video came out, and all this shit has been happening. So a lot of people are saying, why did you wait so long to say anything about this? Why did you wait so long to make a reaction? And this screams, I don't like using the word crazy, but this screams crazy. This screams unhinged, that she went for 2 hours and 31 minutes to say her side of the story. And I think somewhere in here she says she wrote like a 90-page script about this, which all of that feels more like it's emotion-based than like she actually has anything to say about this or prove.
Point by point with evidence to show how she has lied on screen, and I'm going to leave links in the description box down below to everything I'm talking about. That way you can verify the authenticity. The only things I will not be linking will be Emily's Facebook accounts, of which there are 3, where she goes by different names, because they are all seemingly active. 99% of the evidence shown in this video is going to be from Emily's own accounts, including posts from her Emily Artful YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. All of these are publicly accessible, all of these were found after she made these false claims, and all of these—
I hate this. I feel like with how serious everything is, I wish she would just put her face on this. I wish she would just have her face and she would just be talking about her point of view of this bullshit. And I hate the gray. I hate that it's like dark gray and scary. There's no like good color to use or good like configuration or format for this, but I wish that it was not so scary, and this feels like a Dateline episode.
Accounts link directly back to Emily and no one else. These accounts do affirm parts of her story, but they completely debunk and disprove others. I will show them in their entirety so you can draw your own conclusions. I will also be including archival links, seeing as Emily herself has stated she has deleted all her evidence involving this. Emily's narrative that I stalked her is in part made, I believe, so that when I show proof of her lies from her own accounts, she can further claim that that in and of itself is stalking. Emily created a false narrative, so no matter what is said after, even if I debunk all of her claims, she can still claim that she is the victim. That is why I made the decision to handle this legally before I ever responded back publicly.
You still could have said something. You still could have said something like, because it's in my video, it's in my CreepShowArt video, but she could have said something that was a little bit better than the Instagram story post she made, where she was like, oh, God, I'm gonna be fighting this legally. Also, fuck all of you who don't believe me. Fuck everyone else.
Any person claiming to be me before this on any other account was not me. I only spoke to one person once on Instagram, that being Tipster, who I will address more thoroughly at the end. While Emily states she deleted all the evidence, that is clearly untrue. I have found plenty of evidence that shows that what she said happened never actually happened, all of which was found after she made her video, and the majority of it is from her own accounts, meaning she had access to proof that actively went against her claims, and she purposely hid it in order to slander my husband and I. In response to being asked for any proof, she stated that she wouldn't lie about this because it would put her career and reputation on the line, and that my estranged relative and a former friend who physically abused me would also not lie about this, as it would hurt their public image, despite neither of them being public-facing people. I will also address them at the end as well. I will be using Emily's full legal name sporadically through this video, seeing as Emily herself places it in the description box of some of her videos, and it's publicly known. This video is going to be heavily itemized, so feel free to skip to whatever chapter of this video you are interested in, or if you would prefer to read what I am saying, a Google Doc with the script and screenshots will be accessible in the description.
Thank you.
Before I go any further, I want to quickly take the time to point out how Emily talked about her relationship with Anthony on her YouTube channel prior to making this video. In her My Ex-Girlfriend Destroyed—
Why is it gray? Why is it just gray? Why is she not in front of the camera talking about this stuff?
In my art video, Emily states that she has only had 2 bad relationships in her entire life, that being with a mutual friend named Sean, who she stated cheated on her, and the 13-year-old she dated when she was 17. She goes on to say this about all of her other relationships.
Now, I don't know if you guys are getting sick of me talking about my exes. I've done a few videos about my love life in general, but now that I kind of think back at it, Most of my exes were awesome and cool, and I'm still friends with them, or at the very least, cordial. Now, only 2 of my exes are just completely unbearable. I have no desire to ever get in contact with them ever again, and I have had about 7 relationships of substance in my entire life. The first ex that was just a piece of shit was the one that cheated on me, and his name, we call him Sam. So I'm gonna go ahead and put an annotation for that video right here. I definitely suggest you go over and watch that. It was quite an experience. That's all I can say. The other ex is who this story is about. Penny was a beautiful, charming young girl. We got along incredibly well. She was exactly my type, both physically and mentally, or so I thought. And the only possible foreseeable downfall to our relationship at that time was that she was a little bit immature, and she was a little bit immature because she was 4 years my junior.
This video obviously postdates her dating Anthony by 5 years, seeing as it came out in 2016, which makes me skeptical of her claims that their relationship was ended with physical threats and she was scared of him and Bryce. This video also postdates her relationship with her ex from her I Dated a Sociopath video, where she said that relationship was, quote, the worst she had ever been in, and that he scarred her as a lover, as a friend, and as a person, and that she has never gone through anything as bad as that or as traumatic as that.
This guy is really messed up, and I feel like we're cool now. We don't talk for kind of an important reason, which I will get to later. But, you know, I don't hate this guy. I don't feel resentment towards him. I more feel...
I can already tell that this is fully going to be Shannon doing whatever she possibly can to defame Emily. If Emily said something about I was 16 when this happened and she was actually like 16 and a half, I feel like Shannon's gonna go in on that, because I feel like she's really scraping for whatever she can get to fuck up anything. Because I think in her head she thinks that, well, if I can get anything about that Emily said in time that was a lie, like, why are we talking about her ex-boyfriends and ex-girlfriend in a situation that has nothing to do with them when it was Shannon? It was Shannon and Anthony who all this was happening with. So I feel like Shannon is really gonna fucking go balls to the wall to make sure that she can get anything on Emily.
Have sympathy for him, and I was really close to him at one point and felt really close to him, but I feel that closeness was completely fabricated just because he needed stuff from me. So he injured me greatly, and, you know, subject of many great songs, thank goodness, but I'd never been hurt like that before. I'd never been hurt as a friend, as a lover, as a sister, as, you know, just pull around like that.
Why that was left out of the ex-girlfriend video or any of her videos, I do not know. Why Anthony was not...
I think that Shannon is trying to say... It is a mess. I think Shannon is trying to say that... Because she mentioned that she is going to use a lot of Emily's deleted videos, but she says that, like, the deleted videos specifically have to do with her lying with Shannon or something about Shannon, when some of these videos might just be deleted because she doesn't want that on her page anymore. Like, if it's videos about her, if Emily has videos that she has deleted that about her ex-partners, then maybe she just doesn't want that reminder on her page anymore. Maybe she talked about it and then she was like, okay, I don't want this up here anymore reminding me every time I look at my channel shit with my ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend. So maybe that's why she deleted it. I just feel like this 2 hour and 31 minute thing is going to be mostly her, Shannon, just doing whatever she fucking can to make Emily seem crazy or a liar or something. I saw a lot of in the comments is that Shannon goes back into her history, Emily's history, and is talking about oh, when she was 12, she did this. When she was 15, she did this. And I'm like, you're not talking about the problem. And the problem that Emily talked about. If I had a problem with someone and I talked about how they stole money from me and I said they were a stalker, and then they went and did a 2.5-hour video about me, about my childhood, my ex-partners, everything in my life, proving that they're a stalker, that'd be kind of fucking weird.
Mentioned as being a terrible relationship at that point, I do not know. Emily and Anthony dated for 3 to 4 months in 2011. Emily was 19, Anthony was 18. Her Twitter from that time affirms that _meteor showers is babbling nonsense beside me at 1 in the morning. Wouldn't expect anything less. I just hope he doesn't do this at the altar. Meteor showers was the Twitter handle that Anthony was using at the time because it was a band name he went by. Here's Emily affirming that that's a prior band name on Twitter. Here's the Facebook page for Annabelle Wanted, which features her own artwork showing that she went by this name as well. For a list of aliases she has gone by, skip to part 0. During the short relationship, Emily ended up moving into Anthony's grandfather's home. This was corroborated by Anthony's grandfather in the morning. Wouldn't expect anything less. I just hope he doesn't do this at the altar. Meteor showers was the Twitter handle that Anthony was using at the time because it was a band name he went by. Here's Emily affirming that that's a prior band name on Twitter. Here's the Facebook page for Annabelle Wanted, which features her own artwork showing that she went by this name as well. For a list of aliases,
I cannot imagine if someone accused me of being a stalker and I said, no, I'm not a stalker. And then I went through and found a list of all of their social media handles across, oh my God, how many platforms? Tumblr, DeviantArt, Twitter, 9gag, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Can I has a cheeseburger? You went through her social. I'm sorry, that was loud. You went through her socials of when she was on I has a cheeseburger and band name and MySpace and Flickr. That's you are a stalker. I think my cat wants it. Okay, but sorry, back to what I was talking about. You cannot say you are not a stalker of a woman and then have a record of all of her social media handles since when was I have a cheeseburger and when was MySpace? Like early 2000s? What, you want up here? Come here. Crazy. That is so fucking crazy.
She has gone by, skip to part 0. During the short relationship, Emily ended up moving into Anthony's grandfather's home. This was corroborated by Anthony's grandfather. This can also be corroborated by a blog post Emily would make in 2013, 2 years later, talking about how she has a history of moving in with her long-term boyfriends. Emily was not abusing drugs as she stated, and this is known because Anthony himself has a history of past drug abuse before he met Emily and has a zero tolerance policy for that in his life. Anthony has been sober for over...
Girl, you know 2 drug addicts, 3 including yourself. You know 3 drug addicts, and you're gonna say that your husband has no drug problems whatsoever. He's sober, he's fine, whatever. But Emily had issues with drugs?
For 10 years. We can call upwards of 20 people who have all had the same experience with Anthony because he's exceedingly cautious with drug use. Some of these people are also mutual friends with Emily. Emily was well aware of this at the time and was not...
Hey, you know what's...
Shut up. I don't know who Linus is and I don't want his tech tips.
Anthony. According to various social media accounts Emily ran between the ages of 13 and 20, Emily didn't do drugs and was in fact very against drug use. She was not addicted to cocaine at 14 like she said, and she never abused drugs until after Anthony and her...
How do you know? How do you know? How do you know she didn't have problems with drugs at 14? If she was 14 and unless you're with someone 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, you have no idea what they're going through or what their problems are. So how's she gonna sit there and say that Emily didn't have a drug problem that she said she had when she was a kid? It's not like they're sisters. You're just her stalker. You're not her sister. You don't live with her. And sometimes people even don't know what their siblings or their parents are going through. She's got me fucked all the way up with this nonsense.
Or dated and broke up. Here's a post that she made after she and Anthony had broken up where she states wholeheartedly she's against drug use and against what Amy Winehouse had done to her body, that being all the toxins she put inside it. If she was actively using drugs at the time, this is not a statement she would be making. If she was abusing drugs at this time, Anthony, his grandfather, or his grandfather's girlfriend would have seen any indication of this. There's a history of other family members abusing drugs in their family, and they are very aware of what that looks like, and they would not have allowed it in their home. Emily framing this as two people attacking her over past drug use makes no sense, given Anthony's history and the fact that more than half of my extended family has their own issues with drug use, and my parents met in AA. However, when they were
So she's saying that, I'm sorry I'm stopping so much. She's saying that Emily does not have drug use that was caused or prolonged or affected by Shannon and Anthony's drug use because they just take my word for it. I'm like, even if her parents met in AA, that doesn't mean drug use and addicts it's addiction is such a crazy problem that there is no way that you can 100% know 100% of the time know if someone is actually having an issue or not. That's like literally impossible. You're fine. You're okay. Sorry, I was double checking. I was like, I don't think I have followers only chat on or whatever. Pink avocados. Hey, bestie. Okay. Just believe me, there's a cat right here. Okay, let's keep going.
Dating Anthony about her mental health history, saying she's bipolar, has BPD, was schizophrenic, has OCD, suffers short-term memory loss, has an apparent brain injury, and more. Here are some of the posts. Ha ha ha. Actually, my OCD isn't as bad as the kind they flash on television. I got brain damage and you don't. Nah 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 shit. 5 facts about me. I have too many mental problems to even type. 3 things I want to do in the next 12 months. Hang myself up.
That flashed really quickly, but the thing in the upper right corner said, I do this in no way to harass her or shame her mental disorders or whatever. Yes, you do.
The park. Carve Zach's name into my arm. Make love to Zach. 50 unknown facts. I have OCD. I fear my mother singing. I'm 100% serious. 69. Forgotten someone's name. Short-term memory loss mean anything to you? She stated in her now deleted video about how she dated.
Also, I'm so sorry. Also, that's what I'm saying. What does this prove? Because it doesn't matter if she was having a manic episode, a bipolar episode, some sort of mental disorder, or some sort of episode during the abuse she had from Anthony. It's still abuse. I feel like this is very like victim blamey to me. This is very victim blamey to me, where she's like, I don't know. She's like, yeah, but this was her mental state during the time where the alleged abuse happened. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what she had going on or anything like that when the abuse was happening. It doesn't fucking matter.
A sociopath that she was misdiagnosed as bipolar when she was 9.
We immediately bonded on that. He was diagnosed bipolar, and I at one point was diagnosed bipolar when I was very young. That diagnosis has since proven to be very false. You would think when you diagnose a 9-year-old with bipolar disorder, you would check up on that, but that's aside the point.
And on Facebook in 2009, before dating Anthony, she spoke about how she had been prescribed lithium at a certain point. Is feeling as if the general optimistic feeling of improving self has gone. Man, do I love being drugged up with 1,200 milligrams of lithium and still noticeably bipolar. Hey, I like you as is. You do seem happier and more in control compared to last year. In a post from the Awkward Years project from 2015, she also stated that she had to take a medication since puberty, which I am unsure what that is.
On Emily's high school Facebook, I also found examples of her threatening violence and talking about how she...
What does this prove? I'm very biased, obviously, in how much I dislike Shannon compared to Emily, but like, what does this prove? How are you gonna call her violent because she got into a fight in 2009? Someone do the math. 22 minus 9. 13? 13 fucking years ago? That's probably not right. But what does this prove? She has a history of being violent. Okay, first of all, say you're right and she has a history of being violent. What does that have to do with the sexual and drug-induced abuse that she suffered from your husband? What does this have to do with it?
She had previously been violent. In this post, she said, "Had her right hook finally come in handy. Haha, bitch." A friend says, "What happened?" Emily replies, "Violence and possibly a dental bill for someone who is not me. Also, LOL." However, she then posts this on December 7th, 2009. Emily has found out negative referrals in high school heavily reflect on colleges everywhere and feels foolish for not thinking of this before. So basically, I'm fucked for college right now. She follows it up with this comment, as in, put on your record and if enough accumulated to the local police files, meaning that she had assaulted enough people that it might have been put on police record.
During this time when she was living with Anthony, Emily's behavior would cause Anthony and his grandfather to hide the knives.
Again, I hate the gray screen. If you're gonna say this shit, put your face on it. If you're going to try to appeal to the thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, I don't know if all this news and stuff made the millions, but if you're gonna try to defend yourself to the millions, possibly millions amount of people that are like calling you out and saying your shit, your blah 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 blah, this and that, how are you not gonna show your face? You're just gonna show this blank fucking screen? That makes no sense to me.
In the home for their own safety. She would throw tantrums calling Anthony and his friends slurs, which is not uncommon due to her own post history on DeviantArt.
Again, regardless of this, what does it have to do with her nose would literally smack whatever recording software she was using.
Often, and her behavior would come across as erratic and dangerous, not just to Anthony, but to everyone present.
Again, if she's erratic and dangerous, it does not matter, and she does not deserve any of the abuse she suffered from your husband.
We have contacted multiple eyewitnesses who were more than willing to go to court with us. Emily also stated herself that she used to behave this way, documenting these outbursts online since middle school, where she would continuously hurt herself and talk about hurting others. I just slammed
my god, I'm so sorry. I have not had captions on this entire time. I'm so sorry. I apologize. That's horrible.
Head on my desk until my head was throbbing and it felt like it was bleeding, and it gave my head a good rattle, so I fell asleep on the floor that night because I was too out of it to get ready for bed. We will focus more on these posts later. Emily and Anthony dated for a couple months, and during that time, Anthony ended up getting a job at the movie theater I was working at, Cinelex Plaza Theater in Campbell, California. Anthony and I met briefly before his interview, however, we didn't work together until summer of 2011, after Emily and Anthony had broken up. I have never spoken to Emily, we never waved back and forth at each other, she is confusing me with someone else. There was only one time when I technically saw her in person, but it was from a distance when she had passed out in the parking lot behind the movie theater after getting into an argument with Anthony. This is the incident Emily is misremembering as happening after they broke up. However, at the time they were very much together. There are multiple eyewitnesses to this occurrence. There were other moments during their relationship where Emily publicly threatened Anthony, sexually harassed other women, and we have contacted the people who were present at that time. The relationship was short-lived with them breaking up after a couple months. However, during the interview, we didn't work together until summer of 2011, after Emily and Anthony had broken up. I have never spoken to Emily, we never waved back and forth at each other, she is confusing me with someone else. There was only one time when I technically saw her in person, but it was from a distance when she had passed out in the parking lot behind the movie theater after getting into an argument with Anthony. This is the incident Emily is misremembering as happening after they broke up. However, at the time they were very much together. There are multiple eyewitnesses to this occurrence. There were other moments.
So it seems like her plan for the next 2 hours is going to be to deny everything that Emily has ever said about her, agree that these events happened, but say they only happened in a certain way. And I was about to say, where's the proof? Where's the evidence? She shot so hard on people, not on the evidence, quote unquote, alleged evidence that Emily brought to the table. Where's hers? It's just a gray screen where she talks about all this stuff that may or may not have happened.
During their relationship where Emily publicly threatened Anthony, sexually harassed other women, and we have contacted the people who were present at that time.
You gotta show proof. If you're gonna say that Emily sexually harassed other women, I want concrete proof right then and there. I don't want this at 11 minutes and 35 seconds in the video. I'm gonna say yeah, Emily sexually harassed other women. Emily is the predator, and you not immediately show proof. Immediately. Or put a timestamp immediately. Because you cannot just say that. You cannot just say that about a person without proof. That is not an accusation you throw it around without proof.
The relationship was short-lived with them breaking up after a couple months. However, during the relationship, Emily took it upon herself to get a tattoo of Anthony and herself as chinchillas on her arms with the finished word for love under it. She posted a picture of the tattoo on her Twitter page, again, Annabelle Wanted. The photo is blurry, mostly due to the camera at the time, but she purposely gave the male chinchilla little emo bangs, which Anthony had. She only owned one chinchilla at the time, named Archimedes, and she did not own a female chinchilla. Though later—
How do you know this stuff if you are not a stalker?
She would get one and claim this tattoo is for that. She would say that the chinchilla was her and Anthony's kid. She continued this action with all her other boyfriends after Anthony and her broke up, as seen here. Here's her doing it a year or so after her and Anthony dated with her next boyfriend, Carl. This is another Twitter account she had under the name Annabelle Lee. This was another band name of hers. And here's her doing so.
Say Emily is wrong. Like, just throwing it out there, say Emily is incorrect and she's a dirty liar and everything she said about the abuse she suffered from Anthony and the drugs, and say it's all a lie. The one thing that she has proved in under 12 minutes, Shannon, is that she is a stalker. She is a stalker. She has proved that immediately with all this bullshit. You are a stalker. How are you going to go into detail about her tattoos, her childhood, blank, blah, 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 and still claim you're not a stalker?
In 2015, while she was living with her boyfriend,
Girl,
Bob,
you're fine.
This post is still live on Instagram. Shortly after this tattoo—
What did you eat? Because I got dinner right here, and it is Christmas mini snowball sugar shell chocolates.
Their relationship ended. Anthony broke up with Emily. The reason they broke up was because of her erratic behavior and nothing else. Emily also lied when she said how the breakup occurred, saying that Anthony's friend, who she called Brandon, whose real name is Bryce, told her that she was a worthless whore who he was going to curb, stomp, and kill. This never happened. Instead, Anthony broke up with Emily himself twice. However, Emily wouldn't listen to him and kept coming to his home, kept showing up at his friend Bryce's house, and would try to go places Anthony was going to be, including once to—
If Anthony's dating her, then it makes sense that she's going to try to be places where her boyfriend is. It makes sense that she's going to want to be with her boyfriend and hang out with her boyfriend. So I really don't understand her thought process where she's saying Emily was always with Anthony, wanted to be with her. It's because that's her boyfriend. I'm telling you, all of this, I said it in my fucking video, but all of this stems from Shannon wanting Anthony and also just being obsessed with Emily in general. I think that's where all this comes from. It's really fucking
work
crazy.
Where she had to be escorted out. Ironically, she would not take no for an answer. Only because she wouldn't take no for an answer and wouldn't listen to Anthony, did Anthony ask Bryce to tell her to leave Anthony alone and confirm that he wanted the relationship to end.
It's also important to note that Bryce is an autistic man who loves movies, video games, and art, so much so that during the time frame Emily is talking about, Bryce would often wear halo armor that he built himself when he was out and about. It was kind of like cosplay before cosplay was a thing. She also
When was this? Like the early 2000s? People have been cosplaying since like the 80s, the 70s.
Goes in to frame his interest in the Batman movies, specifically Heath Ledger's Joker, as being a sign of his insanity, even though he's simply a film buff who loves Christopher Nolan and went to school for film.
Like I had mentioned before, Andrew and his friend Brandon discussed at length about going into their own...
But going back to this, neither of them owned weapons. Anthony couldn't drive until he was 20. Bryce still can't drive. The idea that they were going to kidnap and kill anyone is absurd. She is saying that, sure, yeah, they threatened her. They threatened to kidnap and kill her, but they can't. So what's the point? That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Half of the virgins with divorced parents on Twitter or my YouTube channel that threaten me or call me a slur or a name or whatever, don't have the ability to do anything, it's still not great. No one wants to be threatened to be kidnapped and killed. And if it was a joke, that's not a funny joke.
Amazing, cool villain ever.
And there is a problem with people who idolize the Joker. There is an issue with men, white men, that idolize the Joker.
Her framing him this way is incredibly inappropriate and borderline ableist. Bryce has never owned any real weapons besides prop weapons for his cosplays and for his films, and has never threatened Emily's life.
Again, what does this have to do with your husband harassing and abusing her and getting her involved with drugs? What does this have to do with any of that?
And he will be making his own video on the accusations Emily leveled at him.
Bryce at no point threatened her. In fact, they remained Facebook friends during that time, even when
this is
Anthony and
Shannon
her were not speaking. Z-Pro Films is a brand account that was run by Bryce, which she heavily interacted with, and still follows on her currently active Facebook. The dates on these posts are important as this occurred when Emily and Anthony were not speaking. Here's Bryce tagging Emily in a post on August 2nd, 2012. Here's him tagging her in a post from June 26, 2012. And these are her likes from a defunct Facebook and her currently active one, where she still follows his brand account, something you would not do if you thought this man was really going to assault you. Bryce had no personal issues with her until she tried to slander him in this video. In going over Emily's statements, I found that Emily brought up on Twitter after the fact that she was, quote, close to Anthony's step-grandma and had bonded with her during the relationship. This is completely untrue, and his step-grandmother has never met Emily, seeing as his grandfather was dating another woman at the time Emily and Anthony were together. It is impossible for any things that she has
I was caught in a cycle of
to have happened. Anthony's step-grandmother also didn't use Facebook until very recently, seeing as she is a former sitting judge, and it would have opened her up to threats and harassing communication. Emily has never been close to any member of Anthony's family. Emily and them were not friendly, and Anthony's family did not.
How do you know? How do you know?
And do not.
This all feels like at the end of this video, she's gonna let everyone know that she's actually psychic.
Like Emily. They encourage Anthony to break up with her, and they stand behind us 100%. Emily also stated that she sent Anthony's step-grandmother a Facebook message. Anthony was harassing her at one point. We reached out to confirm this, and Anthony's step-grandmother says no such message was ever received. It should also be noted that at that time, Emily was well aware that Anthony had
it might be Anthony. You might be right. It might be Anthony, but I swear to God, it has to be. Okay, I'll try pressing him next time. But I swear to God, it's gotta be. No, I have to skip the ads because I don't want her to get all that AdSense money. I have to skip them anyways. She's not getting that AdSense money. Not from me, honey. Nuh-uh, not from me. I can't tell. I can't tell if it's Anthony say. I know that the both of them combined are a problem. But I want to say that I think this is a lot of them together is a bad combo for Emily, because I think they're both obsessed with her and they both have caused her problems. But I want to say that Shannon is like the actual stalker, like she wants, because in my video when I talk about her, I post the pictures and everything of how Emily said that Shannon copied her hairstyles, her outfits, her mannerisms, her life, basically. So I want to say it's like 30-70, the 70 being Shannon.
Separated from that side of the family, and they were not speaking. Emily took it upon herself to send them what she thought was private, personal information of his in order to hurt him. After Emily and Anthony broke up, Emily dated a couple other people who both Anthony and I know. There are specifically two people who she dated between when she and Anthony broke up, stopped talking, and when they reconnected after she got sober, which I will be talking about now. Despite her saying she's friends with all her exes except Anthony, we have proof of her accusing a plethora of her past partners, and in some cases their current partners, of abuse as well, some of which can be found on her YouTube channel as recently as last year. The first person would be
I want to say she orchestrated most of it. Anthony actually did the abuse, but I made a point in my video, my CreepShowArt video, where I talked about how everyone was coming for Shannon's neck. Everyone was coming for Shannon and saying, oh, Shannon, this, and that. And I commented how no one was really going for Anthony, because Anthony's the one who actually, like, did the abusing. Anthony's the one who sexually assaulted her, and Anthony is the one who caused her the most like physical abuse and physical strain. And then there were like a terrorist cell operation where Shannon did the mental and psychological torture and Anthony did the physical stuff. But he is the reason everything exists, but I think timeline wise, and this is just speculation, I think it was Anthony and Emily started dating as a unit, and then Shannon became obsessed with the idea of being Emily and became obsessed with the idea of having Anthony. And that's why everything kind of went crazy, is Shannon doesn't care that Anthony is abusive. She doesn't care about the drugs. She doesn't care about anything that Anthony has done wrong. She just wants to be Emily and to like erase her. Because the thing with stalkers, especially women, is stalkers who are women will go out of their way to either become the person they're stalking or to get rid of the person they're stalking. Specifically with women, they will try to take their identity, take their hair, wear the same clothes, get the same products they have, become close with their family, become close with their friends, and basically wiggle themselves into that slot of their lives and become that person. And I think that's what happened with Shannon, is she just wanted to become Emily, no matter the cost, no matter whatever. And I think it's like having to do with what she wanted to get rid of Emily, and then half she wanted Anthony. So unfortunately, I think that Shannon orchestrated a lot of the bullshit and Anthony did the bullshit. That's just my opinion. I'm putting that criminal psychology bachelor's degree to work.
Sean. Emily made a story time about this man that is still live on her channel, claiming that he cheated on her with a crazy bitch who ended up sending her a fake cease and desist because she was so insecure about Emily.
Anyway, I received a message from a girl, let's call her Celine, and let me quickly paint a picture of her. She was at the time, probably 18-year-old Korean girl with bleach blonde hair who fucking loved to party. Every single picture on her Facebook was of her and her bunch of fucking white chick friends doing the peace sign, covered in that rave candy, you know, the jewelry that you wear to rave. I don't fucking know. But all of her pictures were like poorly lit with flash, and just all of her friends like, yes, give it, yes, I just want to party. Wow. This is not where this story ends, my friends. Oh no. 2 months after we broke up and I hadn't heard anything from him, I hadn't tried to make contact with him or any of his friends, I get a letter in the mail, and it's this shitty like Microsoft Word but with like weird font typed up letter thing. It didn't look official or like it could hold up in a court of law at all. And it was basically a copy paste cease and desist letter saying like, oh, you need to leave Sam alone, and if you do not stop trying to contact Sam, he will contact his lawyer. And I was just like, wait, what the fuck? I haven't even talked to this guy in 2 months. I basically just threw the letter away and forgot about it until about a full year after I received that letter. One of our mutual friends that I remained in touch with, I like just had brought it off a whim, like, oh my god, I totally forgot about this. And they're like, oh wait, nobody told you? And I'm like, nobody told me what? So Sam didn't even send that letter. Celine sent that letter to my house. How she got my address, I don't even fucking know. That bitch was crazy, because since he had cheated on me with her, when they got together, she was hyper paranoid that he was still talking with me, even though he obviously wasn't. So she sent a letter almost in Sam's name, just in case we were still talking. And even after her many displays of insanity, he still stayed with her.
The other guy we will talk about, we will call Carl, who she made a story time about how his ex-girlfriend was, again, so crazy she faked a suicide attempt and said she was going to accuse him of rape, who he ended up getting back together with and marrying.
Hey everyone, my name is Emily, and today we're going to be doing a sketchbook story time about my ex-boyfriend, psycho ex-girlfriend. A few years after high school, I would think a few years roughly, I met this guy, and we are going to call him Dave. And Dave had an ex-girlfriend, and we are going to call her Vicky. Dave and Vicky had been separated for a good year, And when Dave and I met, he, made sure to let me know that he has an ex-girlfriend who has a few screws loose, was the term he used.
I'm gonna show you a couple comments real quick that I thought were funny. I said, girl, you got some nerve. But a lot of people are making jokes that when Emily was 3 months old, she blank. This is a sign of a liar. Emily barred a classmate since she was 8. Terrifying how in depth you dug into Emily's life. You seriously are a stalker. She did in her original statement. It's in my video. In her original statements, she was talking about how Emily and her weren't close and they never knew each other, but now she has a detailed, a whole detailed list and whatever of her entire life. And CreepShowArt, I'm not a stalker, also CreepShowArt has a record of every single thing she's ever done back to the early 2000s. I Has a Cheeseburger is ancient, and she has her accounts and all that shit. And you're right, it's random. None of this shit has anything to do with Emily's story. The thing about this is I know some of it, so much of this is just going to be us having to listen to her voice and tuning her out.
His fault. So he panics, as any fucking normal human being would, drops me off at home, goes to her house. I don't hear from him until the next morning. This bitch took 7 Advil. That is literally 1 more Advil than the daily recommended fucking dose. That's not going to kill you. Why it bothers me so much. And again, who am I to say if she was serious or not? But why it bothers me if she wasn't is because suicide is such a fucking serious thing. And if you are using...
Is she blaming her self-harm on her boyfriends, or does she have a pattern of dating people that have led her to self-harm and suicide? There's a difference. There's a difference between her blaming all of her self-harm on her boyfriends and her keep on going into a pattern of abuse where they did push her to self-harm and suicide.
It to trap someone, you are a psychopath and you are part of the fucking problem. After this whole problem, this girl starts harassing me on Facebook.
Also, once again, this has nothing to do with her. The whole thing, the main chunk of Emily's video of her accusations, where everyone started attacking Creepshow and Shannon and told her to fuck off forever off the internet, a chunk of it is that she said she was sexually abused, that there was there's a more correct term CSAM, sexual or something like that. And Emily said that Shannon and Anthony made something like that of her when she was younger, and that they got her into drugs, and Emily already had a problem with drugs, but Anthony and Shannon exasperated it. There's a lot. But I'm wondering, none of this has anything to do with her, what Emily is saying. She's just making herself look worse. And fuck YouTube. Fuck you for taking the dislikes away. Fuck you two for taking the... I would love to see the dislike counter on this. I would love to see it. I bet it's somewhere in the at least 100,000. Because take out 36,000 of these people that didn't like it or dislike it. They just watched it. There's got to be at least... I'll be more generous and say at least 50,000 dislikes. I wish we could see it. I'm gonna have to see if there's a way to get the encode data and see if there's a way to see the dislike counts.
She created 4 accounts,
so dumb.
Mind you, with her picture on all 4.
It is telling though, luckily, when you see something has over 100,000 views and 1K likes, 2K likes, so.
Accounts, but different names.
But they should have taken dislikes away.
all, you know, pumping out those really generic mean girl comments. You're fat, you're ugly, I'm so much prettier than you, he'll never love you, blah, 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 whatever. He calls her up, says, if you don't stop, I am going to file a restraining order to get your fucking ass off mine. So she, of course, bawls and says, well, then, here's another pet peeve of mine. She says, well, then I'm going to say that you... And about a year after
That's
I left
horrible.
him,
That's horrible that she... Say Shannon was in the right. That's horrible that she said... That she's like, this girl who accused my husband is talking about being... That's ironic. That's so shitty of her to say.
The grapevine that they got back together and she got pregnant and now he's trying to leave, but she's pregnant and I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Both of these stories are untrue and are oddly in line with things that Emily herself has stated she has done to her own boyfriends via social media. Carl allegedly got Emily into heroin, according to her. However, much like Anthony, their relationship did not last long, with them breaking up in August. Shortly after that, her relationship with heroin also ended.
That's not fair, because heroin takes 2. Crack takes 2. Drug addiction takes 2. To get started into drug addiction, someone has to supply with you the drugs. Most people who get addicted to drugs do not just go out on the street and get heroin to try it. It is a slow process. You try it at a party or at a social gathering once and you're like, that was crazy, never do that again. Then you keep trying it at parties, you keep trying it at social gatherings, or it's used as an abuse tool. So it's very bullshit of Shannon to be like, allegedly, she said she got addicted to drugs because of this dude. That's totally a plausible thing that could happen. People don't just go and get addicted to drugs. It's a process. It's a slow working process.
According to her DeviantArt page, by February 4th, 2013, she was already 5 months sober from heroin, meaning she got clean from heroin in November 2012.
People relapse.
So my doctor recently prescribed me Substatex, which in my opinion is a lot better than Subsicone. Why? Because it kind of gets you dopey. Honestly, that's a terrible reason why it makes it better. And without sound too harsh, it's definitely an addict's way of thinking. Once an addict, always an addict. However, I like to be positive and constructive by adding, but you don't always have to be an addict who uses. To my followers, my old addiction isn't a secret, but I am constantly reminded every day why I'm happy being...
And you know what? People can get sober and... Yes, there are people will get their significant others hooked on heroin to abuse them. It's honestly mostly in human trafficking and like sex trafficking that the boyfriends, they're called Romeo boys or Romeo lovers, where they get a girl to fall in love with them and use them for sex or drugs or whatever, and then they will keep them hooked on the abuse and hooked on a drug of their choice and to keep them there, to get them to stay. I love that Shannon at some point, if she hasn't already, is gonna say some shit about like, oh yeah, drug abuse is hard. No one's ever 100% sober. There's relapses and you gotta do. But she's like, not my man. Anthony is not a drug abuser, not my man.
Sober, my art, and I try to remind everyone at meetings that the things they have abandoned to get their fix are the things that will keep you sober when you're out of luck, and I stick to that. It's a rare occurrence to run into an otaku who is also a heroin addict.
It's really hard for me because I want to skip so much of this. And just really get to the meat of the issue. But I know when I post this on YouTube later that I'm going to get someone who's like, well, you didn't watch the whole thing. At least I'm the only one I've ever heard.
You didn't watch the whole thing. Are you going to know the full story if you didn't watch the whole thing?
Heard of.